Hello, 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 everybody. It's good to see you this beautiful Sunday afternoon. So we actually have a kind of a long talk today, and we're going to be talking about entrepreneurship, right? We're going to be talking about what is really involved in starting a business. And this one of the reasons that prompted me to do this is just because I realized how much bad info is out on this and how many bad beliefs and just not true things are going on. So I was like, okay, I got to do something to kind of set the record straight. Now, before we dive in, I do want to make a quick distinction between entrepreneurship and freelancing. So freelancing is just trading your time for money, right? That's not, it's where you're not working for a company, but you're just selling your services one-on-one, right? Entrepreneurship is building a business that can scale, right? You're selling a product or you're selling, like a course that's scalable or something where it's not just time for money, right? And everything I'm going to say today applies to entrepreneurship and not to freelancing. Freelancing, you can get started really quickly. You can make good money doing that right away, but it doesn't have the same long-term potential as entrepreneurship. It's a very, some of the stuff applies, some of it doesn't. But we're not talking about freelancing today. We're talking about entrepreneurship. So the first myth that I want to go over is that people think that you can start a business risk-free, and that's just not the case, right? Maybe you've got a bunch of money that you can invest, right, and start a business. Normally you're going to have to take on debt. But I was talking to someone the other day who wanted to scale up this small business that she had started, and her goal was to quit her job. She had a horrible job. She told me it was literally a life or death situation whether she stayed in her job or not because the stress was going to kill her. And she had this side business, and it was really more of a hobby because it wasn't making any profit, right? And she made it very clear that she was unwilling to take on the slightest bit of debt to scale up her business. And I straight up told her that she wasn't ready to work with me because growing a business to critical mass, where it's actually like making you enough money that you can quit your job, requires investment and risk, right? That's why so few people ever become real entrepreneurs, right? Because you either got to take on debt or you got to have a lot of money to invest. And most people don't have that capital up front and stand up and take on debt. I took on $70,000 of debt to start my business and get it off the ground. And I had never taken on debt in my life, right? I was the guy who paid everything up front, like not even student loans, nothing, not car loans, nothing, right? Until it came time to start my business. And so if you're not willing to do that, if you're like, no, it's not that important, I'm not gonna do that, then you're just not ready, right? That's just the hard truth. The second thing is people think that you can be a part-time entrepreneur, and that's just not true. So this is the other thing she told me. She said that she couldn't quit her job until her business was making enough money to replace her salary. And this is something I hear a lot is people are like, hey, listen, I just want to go and get my business, making me a bunch of money in the free time, and then I'll leave my job. But it doesn't work like that, right? Like that doesn't work either, because you have to work your ass off to build your business before it ever gets to the point where it's making that much money, right? So building a business, like everything else in life, requires you to commit before you see the result, right? You don't just say, hey, listen, I'm going to be super committed like after I'm making a ton of cash and like, yeah, that's going to work, right? This is not how anything in life works. It would be like going into a marriage and be like, hey, baby, listen, I'm going to be exclusive. Like after we're married, then I'm going to stop seeing other women. Is that cool, right? Like nobody's going to do that, right? And that kind of leads to the third myth, which is people think that running a business is get rich quick, right? They think, I have a piece of paper here so I can show you guys, right? You start a business and your dollars just go up really fast. So they think that it looks like this, right? Can you all see that? There. They think that it looks like that. It just goes up really fast. That is just not true. That's just not true, right? So this is probably the most prevalent bullshit out there around entrepreneurship. So all these people are running around and they're showing off cars and planes and travel and houses, and they're throwing around some really big numbers, and they act like it all just happened one day. Like they just stumbled on this magical secret, or they had this amazing idea, this flash of insight, and then suddenly, bam, now I'm a billionaire, right? And I know it sounds ridiculous, right? But a lot of people portray like it's some overnight success because of just this one flash of idea, or this one thing, or this one whatever, right? And often then they're saying, hey, I can sell you that one thing, right? Because the reason they do this is they want to leverage your fear of missing out on their lifestyle. They want to leverage your enthusiasm to sell you something. And in order to do that, they're painting you a picture that's very, 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 very misleading, right? That's just not the way. To become a successful entrepreneur isn't like the one thing, right? Like that is a tactic that they teach you in marketing. I know because I've taken marketing courses, right? They teach you that you want to portray people it's all about this one thing, but that's not the truth. It's a lot of different things. Like when I work with entrepreneurs, it's not one thing. It's like 20 or 30 things that you got to get right to make this work, right? Both internally, inside yourself and your external strategy, all that kind of stuff, right? So I know dozens of millionaire entrepreneurs, and not one of them had this like overnight, millionaire experience. It's not what happened. In every single case, it took a lot of grit, a lot of grind, a lot of effort. And in every single case, it required years of experience, which either could be earned, one, the hard way by just going through it themselves and struggling for years, or in some cases by relying on a mentor who had been down that road and wasn't there to just teach them one thing, but was there to help them with 20 or 30 challenges, one after the other every single day, right? And in that case, people can do it in less than a year, but, it does require getting some serious help. And it does require realizing that it's going to be a long road. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be challenging. It does not get rich quick. So the fourth myth, and this is actually some good news here. There we go. Is people think that entrepreneurship will basically replace your job income. Like, oh, I'm making like $60,000 a year, so I can start this business and then be making $60,000 a year, and that would be cool, right? But that's also not the way things work, right? And so after all the bad news, here's some good news, right? If you are an entrepreneur and you do get off the ground, you're going to end up making a lot more than a middle class salary. So it almost never happens that people get. So here, I'll draw you another graph. Time, money. So what people think is that it's going to be like this, right? They think it's going to go like that, right? And that's not going to happen either, right? So once you get past that initial struggle phase, right, normally things grow to be at least $100,000 a year, right? You almost never end up trapped in that 40 to 60,000 range, unless you're self-sabotaging somehow to keep yourself under a certain number, or unless you're freelancing, in which case this doesn't really apply. But if you actually have a scalable business, you almost always get over 100K, right? And it's important to know that. It's important to know the stakes that you're really playing for, because you're not going to say, hey, I'm going to quit my job. You're not going to say, hey, I'm going to take on that debt if you're just going to replace your salary. You're like, oh, well, I'm going to take on $20,000 or $30,000 worth of debt to be making the same thing I am right now. Well, I guess, I'll just stick it out here, right? Which, most people should probably not do, because being in a miserable job in that woman's case will literally kill you. But when you realize hey, listen, I'm taking on $20,000 or $30,000 worth of debt or whatever it is, right? Maybe it's only $5,000. I don't know, right? Or you're quitting your job and, you're having to rely on some other income for, for 6 months or whatever, right? When you realize you're doing that to make 100, 150, 200, even more, $300,000 a year, something like that, and it can get a lot higher, and we're going to talk about that, then, it's a risk, but there's a big reward on the backside, right? And so the stakes are worth playing for, right? So here are the truths, right? Here's what's really going on, right? First off this is the good news. And a lot of people believe this, and this is true, when you're an entrepreneur, you do get to escape all of the rat race nonsense that you have to deal with. So you don't have to deal with a boss, right? Which is hugely liberating. So outside of a small group of elite managers, most bosses are out of touch at best and outright abusive at worst, right? Now, an entrepreneur is only accountable to themselves. So there's never a time when you have to choose between doing your job well and following orders, right? You also don't have to deal with distractions like colleagues coming in and dumping stuff on you, or meaningless meetings, or any of that crap. I mean, I'm sure any one of you who's in a normal salary job will look at stuff that's going on in your day and realize more than half of it probably isn't productive. You're in some meaningless meeting, some crappy bullshit thing where somebody's reading something off and it doesn't apply to you, right? Or you've got colleagues coming in, just stopping you from being productive or whatever, right? And then, when you're an entrepreneur, you have flexibility, right? So yeah, you've got stuff you've got to do to serve your clients, to get new clients, to all that kind of stuff, but you control your calendar, right? And so that's something like, hey, you want to go pick up your kid? Great. You're going to put in some more time later? Cool. No worries, right? Obviously, like this whole, oh yeah, I'm going to be a bazillionaire entrepreneur working, 15 hours a week, like that obviously doesn't work, but you've got to put in the effort, right? Back up to that first myth, but you can choose when you do that, right? And that's huge, right? The second truth is you can make really, really, really great money, right? As I said, a real business owner, right, should be taking home at least $100K a year, right? And it can go a lot higher if you know how to scale and you know how to delegate and you know how to manage people. So normally what it looks like is something like that. So let's see if you guys can see this. There we go, right? So what happens is you've got this struggle phase here, and then it just goes up and up and up and up and up. And then it will, sometimes it will spike really dramatically. Sometimes it'll just grow and grow and grow every year. Sometimes it will grow until you decide, oh, well, I don't want to be making more than that. And you have some, wealth psychological block that caps you off and you start self-sabotaging. But you can make really, really good money. I mean, I know people who've gone from being bartenders at the Cheesecake Factory to making $20 million a year. It took time, it took effort, it took a lot of personal growth, but it happens, right? The third truth, and this is a really interesting one, is your business is a mirror, and it's a mirror into your soul. So whether or not your business succeeds rests entirely on your shoulders. So becoming an entrepreneur is going to force you to grow massively, right? So every personal flaw is going to be reflected as a business challenge. If you're lazy, you're not going to get off the ground. If you don't have empathy, if you have trouble relating to people, your marketing is going to suck. You're going to struggle to get leads, right? If you're not confident in yourself, then you're not going to be able to sell effectively, right? If you have fear or scarcity mindset, you're going to repel customers at every step without even knowing it, right? If you've got emotional baggage, it's going to stop you from being able to put in the time and the effort needed to succeed as an entrepreneur. So what's going to happen is you're going to realize that all of those things you carry, right, are things you have to deal with if you want to make money, right? And it becomes non-optional for you to deal with those things or you're going to go bust, right? So being a good entrepreneur means taking an honest look in the mirror of your business and growing as a person, right? And as I said, you don't really have much of a choice in this. If you want to make it, if you want to succeed, you got to do this, right? And so what happens is you end up fast tracking like 10 years of growth into 1 year really, really easily. And then when you do, your income will go up to reflect that. So that's why you have that struggle phase, right? That's why you have that going on there, is because that's the growth. That's when you're becoming the person you need to be to run this business. And once you've done that, that's when you get the reward, right? That's what really makes the difference. Ultimately, a lot of people, they think that they're, worth 100K or 200K a year in like, universal karmic terms or whatever. And they're not, because they've got all these demons inside. So everybody does. And until you go and you pull those out and you deal with them, then you're not going to be able to get that. But once you do, that's when life starts to change. Right? And it's not just going to be in your income. It's going to be in every area of your life. But a business helps you do that a lot faster. It allows you to grow as a person so much more rapidly than if you've got stability and it doesn't matter. Because if you're on a salary, then like it doesn't matter whether you're not, you're maybe you lose your job, but maybe you get a promoted faster or whatever. But it's not like every day, if you're going to make it, you have to grow, right? And that's what being a business owner is about. This is an everyday growth kind of thing. And then finally, the fourth truth, that being an entrepreneur is really, really, really fulfilling. So if you're doing what you love and you're 100% responsible for delivering that, then it feels amazingly good when you succeed. So seeing clients get life-changing results or getting positive feedback from your customers, it's a high that can last for days, right? It's wonderful, right? And as it happens over and over and over again, that fulfillment gets incorporated into your sense of who you are and how you approach the world, right? So it's really easy to feel like a badass and to feel like, an awesome person when you know that you're directly responsible for making the world a much better place and making a difference in people's lives, right? It's a feeling that you can't replace. There's nothing like it, right? And so it does require a lot of effort, but that effort only makes the reward so much sweeter, right? It really, 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 really does. So being an entrepreneur is super fulfilling. So, okay, guys, that was a lot. We've gone over the myths, right? Just to go over them again. A business is going to involve risk. It's going to involve time. It's not something you do part-time. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme, right? But it is going to give you on the back end a lot more rewards than people think. You're going to make way more than if you're in a normal job. You're going to escape all of the hassle that most people have to deal with, right? You're going to grow as a person a lot, and you're going to get a sense of fulfillment that I can't possibly describe to you, right? So if you guys are ready to start that journey, and if you do want that help getting through that initial phase so that, it becomes months instead of years, right? And you want to fast track that growth even more, then go to www.oculusinstitute.com/scheduling, book a call with me. We'll talk. I would love to hear about your business. I would love to hear about your dream, right? And I'm, if it makes sense, like if you're serious, right, then we can talk about working together. Obviously, if you're like the other person who's on the phone and says, hey, listen, I'm not willing to put in any commitment and I don't want to quit and this and that and this and that, then I'm probably going to tell you you're not ready, right? But if you're serious and you're like, hey, listen, Sean, I know what it takes. It's really something that I want to do. I know that it's worth it. Then we can talk about working together. We can talk about fast tracking that and getting you, to that 100, 200K level really quickly and getting you that fulfillment and that freedom and that passion and that growth, because the growth is really, really valuable and that will affect the rest of your life. So go to www.oculusinstitute.com/scheduling. And the other thing is, also guys, maybe you're in a job that you don't like. Maybe you're in a job that you hate and you're listening to this, you go, holy crap, I'm not ready to be an entrepreneur yet. There's nothing wrong with that, right? In my Awaken program, not everybody who works with me is an entrepreneur. Like there are other paths to get you out of a shitty job, right? There's freelancing, right, which I talked about earlier, which you can ramp up much, much, much faster, right? There's even just applying to other jobs, right, and doing it correctly and applying to jobs that are really going to make you happy, right? So even if you're here and you say, hey, listen, Sean, thanks for just being honest and for like telling me that this is what it takes because I'm not ready and I know I'm not ready. Right. But I still want to get out of a shitty job. Then also go to www.oculusinstitute.com/scheduling and we can talk about other solutions because there are absolutely other solutions. So guys, entrepreneurs and non-entrepreneurs, entrepreneurs in incubation who are not quite there yet, people who are ready to start the beginning of the journey, who are on the journey, who realize that they need help, all of you, I would love to speak with you. And I will see you guys later this week. Farewell.